Hi everybody, welcome back to Rowan Tower. This is one of those episodes I've been putting off, not because I'm stopping or anything like that, but because it's about weathering the track using an airbrush, and I'm not having the greatest of luck using an airbrush. You would have seen previously that I have done some work airbrushing some pico points to make them look like concrete, and that kind of works well, but I'm not sure if it's the paint that I'm using or thinners, but that tends to block up. It becomes quite gummy at the end, and after about 2 points you have to kind of clean the entire airbrush out again. But anyway, that's by the by. That is what my plan is today, is to do a bit of light weathering using some enamel paints, the airbrush, some thinners, and just lightly spraying over most of the track and a little bit heavier where the points are. Now, I've watched many people do this. Heavy Junction is one of the ones I've been watching, and he makes using an airbrush look so simple. So anyway, let's see how I get on with this particular go.
So once getting my mix around 40-60 paint to thinners, I started using the airbrush. I'm using the Sleeper Grime, which is kind of a brown, and it goes on relatively well. Occasionally I've got a splodge of paint come out of the airbrush, which is a tad annoying, and I think I'm running around about 25 to 30 psi on the compressor. And it all seems to work quite well. Some places come a bit darker than I was hoping, mainly because when you're spraying I find it quite difficult to see the coverage. I think my nozzle end is not big enough because the width of the sprays is still quite narrow even if you pull away, so maybe I need a 0.3 mil end. One thing I had noticed is where I'd run Ballast Magic, I ended up blowing a lot of the ballast out because it just hadn't set as firmly as I'd hoped. So here's the end result. I'm starting on one of the corners and it's fairly light just here. It's where I kind of started. What you just witnessed there was a little bit further on. Just about here I'm coming up to a set of points. You could maybe be able to see that it's going a little bit darker. The double slip there is definitely a lot more dull, so is the concrete sleepers above it, and as you work your way around the track is a lot more weathered. Later on, I didn't record it, but I did put the dark black, whatever the colour is that they call it, enamel on there to give it a bit more of a darker wash over. And on the curves on the outer edge I tried to make it slightly darker than the inner edge. I'm not sure how successful you can see that, but one of the things I have realised that I am severely missing is I need to give a slightly wider spread across all of the ballast to give it a slightly less new look. And I'm not going to say I'm 100% happy with it, but for a first attempt I think it's pretty reasonable. Well, I'm hoping it's pretty reasonable. As you can see, I've got a few little bits of details in there. I've got the grids in and the AWS magnets / ramps, depending how you want to call them. Those are both Pico products. The final area that I did, as you can see, my weathered AWS magnet / ramp is just here. Again, the outer edge of those tracks I tried to weather a little bit heavier, as I believe that's where most of the kind of grease would end up. As we go around here there would be a set of signals, and just here I've weathered these tracks quite a lot, I think, because there would be trains running in and out of a potential freight area and they would be moving over those points slowly. After looking back at the footage, it was obvious that the other areas around the track, the other bits of ballast, was too new. Just wasn't weathered enough or at all. So I decided to change the tip of my airbrush from a 0.2mm to a 0.3. I have got a 0.5, but that just doesn't fit inside the airbrush. So the 0.3 allows me to do a bigger spread from further away, and that's what I'm doing now. You can just about see this weathered black coming out the end of the nozzle, which again I kind of did around 40-60 to round match enamel to thinners. You can see that I'm going backwards and forwards, and at the end of each stroke I'm trying to stop the paint from spraying but continue the air out of the nozzle so that I don't get a clogged nozzle. And it'd be really nice to be able to see the actual paint lay down, but it's very, very fine. And if you do see something, it's probably just a shadow being created by my arm as I move back and forth. And then I'm just doing a little bit of a quick test, and you can see how quickly the paint does build up even from that distance. From this perspective, you can actually see the paint coming out of the airbrush. And as you've noticed around my layout, I've got lots of different coloured ballast, and I've been kind of using that for, well, several reasons. In the real world, they may change track and have to reballast certain sections, and that's what I've kind of gone for on this area just here. It may not look like it, but it has made a difference. On the camera, I don't think you can really see it, but it has certainly dulled down all of the ballast around the area. Probably, I don't know, maybe not as heavy as it could do, but I'm happy with the outcome of it at this moment in time. Somebody did recommend using some of the Humbrol washes on there. I may give that a little try just to see how they work rather than using an airbrush over the entire track section. Anyway, let's have a quick view of my Class 37 cleaning the track with a CMX.